G'day everybody and welcome to today's live stream. Whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on Twitch, welcome to you. I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, which is CEO and founder of TeamApp, Rob Fletcher. Rob, welcome to the Sports Community live stream.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks for having me. After you asked me to come on board, I had a bit of a look at some of your previous live streams, and although I believe Fridays are your favourite day, hopefully we can have a fun day for you today.
Well, yeah, Fridays because I learn a lot, and eSport Friday. So if you don't know what Twitch is, coming to eSport Friday next week. We're really excited to have Nigel Smart from the Adelaide Chief Operating Officer Adelaide Crows talking about their gaming team legacy. But Rob, many people, huge numbers use TeamApp, but many people actually still haven't heard about TeamApp. So before we talk about what you can do and how you help, do you want to just give us a little bit of a snapshot of TeamApp and who you are?
Yeah, no problems. Thank you. So TeamApp's a platform that allows teams and groups to be able to create their own smartphone app. So what we do is we try and become the hub for all the different communication that clubs, teams, leagues, and potentially state and sporting bodies can do within sport.
And so specifically in the COVID period, and if we kind of look at COVID in the COVID period is two parts, the lockdown part and then the rebooting of sport. Clubs have been using TeamApps prolifically to stay engaged with their different groups within their club. Do you want to just give us some examples and how they've been doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the news and events features are probably the two most used features on TeamApp and have been for a number of years, and news allowing you to broadcast communication to the different stakeholders within your club, and events being able to track anything within an event. But what's happened more so, I suppose, as soon as sport started to close down was that the communities or the clubs really struggle to stay connected. So Our chat feature has gone through the roof. So what we've done over the last couple of months is we're really trying to help our clubs. Just on that, I think tech plays a really massive part, not just to get sport back playing, but also to make sure that we can get back to where we were pre-COVID. And that's not just from an Australian perspective, that's all over the world. So I think we play a big part, and not only us, but all the tech players. Australia as well, just on that, is probably one of the best tech countries in the world. We've got partners all over the world. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is being able to showcase some of the elite platforms we've got here. Because I think we do bad above our average, and we have some of the best systems all throughout the world, like I mentioned. What we've done to help that engagement is we've spent a fair bit of time. I think the first process was we wanted to make sure that our clubs that were using TeamApp knew exactly how and who was receiving their messages. Yep. So we updated some of the functionality to really give everyone a snapshot on exactly who was receiving them and how they were receiving them. The second part to that, like I mentioned, as soon as we saw that the chat was getting a significant spike and is now our most used feature, we wanted to improve the infrastructure, which is going to go live in the next couple of days. But we also spent a fair bit of time just adding some new functionality. So one of the features that we launched within chat was a system or a feature called polls, which is a funky way or a fancy way or a fun way of being able to ask questions. Since that's launched, we're now having hundreds and nearly thousands of polls created every day. So I'm glad from a TeamApp perspective that our users have obviously resonated with that feature specifically and are using it the way we thought they would.
Yeah, and the difference, many clubs in the COVID period started to use Facebook and Facebook groups, and the difference between TeamApp and platforms like Facebook, where is when you're putting information out and then creating that community and that conversation, everyone gets to see everything or whatever you choose. Whereas in Facebook and the other social media platforms, it's a very small percentage of do it. So it creates that engagement really strongly, better than any other platform really that we've seen.
I'm glad you think so, because we've certainly worked pretty hard to make sure that that's the case. Facebook and WhatsApp groups and things like that, they're great messaging tools for specific groups. I suppose what TeamApp is and the strength that we've got within sport is we can segment your entire club. So we've got functionality which allows you to have as many teams as you want within the same environment, and then give your coaches, team managers, the ability to be able to communicate to just their team. So a team can exist within a club on TeamApp, and then the club, they do have information and messages that they need to send that broadcast to every single person. So our system is basically a little hierarchical tool that can allow you to communicate to a team specifically, or the entire club if that's what's required.
Yeah, cool. And there's a couple of people, Russell Innes and Ray Cowie from Ipswich Car Club, watching that have really been using TeamApp strongly, and they were telling me that since COVID started, they've had a tremendous spike in the number of people that are using it, and part of that is people that they never thought would use technology, and they're really surprised at how easy it is and how powerful it is to engage online where they never thought it was possible.
Yeah, it's been a long journey to get to that stage. We've been going for about 7 years now, and certainly when we first launched, we've had a lot of key learnings, but we were learning every day too. So we really try and analyse how TeamApp's used today and how it can be used better, and that'll never change. There's always better systems, but there's also new technologies that are launching all the time. So we try and become thought provokers, and we certainly try and stay in the leading position of making sure that we bring out technologies that are new and tailoring to the new operating systems. So we've got a lot of new things that are coming out in this new update that we're about to send, and a lot of that's been achievable because of the new technologies that an Apple operating system or an Android operating system allow us to do.
Yeah. And I guess and I do mention karting a lot in recent weeks through the COVID period, because karting is one of the sports that were allowed back on track as early as possible. And if we kind of flick over to the relaunch period, there's a couple of real strong characteristics that clubs need to do. One is communication, which we've talked about, but one of the other challenges for clubs is managing the number of people on site at any given time. And again, Russell particularly was talking about how they've adapted their registration process to really be able to manage and schedule people to be on site at any given, or on track in their case, at any given time.
Yeah, fantastic. So we also, like I said, we want to try and help sport resume. I think it's pretty important that technology plays a big part of that. There's going to be a lot of requirements on the volunteers, and volunteers, as we already know, are stretched for time as it is. So we want to make sure that we can really help them. So we've put together a bit of a video, which is on our YouTube channel, and I'll share it through the comments of this this stream later on. But it allows you to do the whole process for returning to sport. So I know there's a lot of compliance there with numbers, and these are changing daily. There's also requirements on certain questions that you need to ask of the member before they even attend the session, and then there's the tracking of that attendance. That has been communicated in very different ways from a lot of the leagues, and a lot of the leagues are coming up with their own checklists and things like that, which is fantastic. What our system allows you to do is actually digitalise that entire process. So whether it's asking the questions, restricting the people who can attend each session, or the attendance tracking, or even more importantly, should something unfortunately happen and someone comes up with and contacts COVID, then what our system can do is export all of that data and share it with whichever governing body that needs that information.
Yeah, and again, another theme that we've had all the way through the live streams in the COVID period is one of the things we've got to make sure that we do is not have our clubs become COVID clusters. And one of the key ways of doing that, if someone has come on site, is to be able to give that information straight across to the authorities. And we do know that numbers of many clubs are thinking of tracking their registrations on spreadsheets or clipboards and pens and paper. And it's just nowhere near the easiest and quickest way to do that sort of process. And B, if we need that data, or community needs that data quickly, it's just not going to be possible to get it out quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a look at that the video I mentioned, then at least it'll step you through exactly what process and how you can do it through TeamApp. And to your point, Steve, it's obviously the collecting of the data through ours. It's digital, so it's just ticking a box, and you can make sure that you're adhering to the social distancing. You don't need to be next to someone. You don't need them to fill in anything. So you don't need to be handing over pens to people to put down their own information, because all of that information is already on TeamApp. So for those users that are listening today, with your users already there, this is already set up. This is a feature that we've had for a while. We've tailored it towards solving this issue, but we can do that now, and it's free like everything else on TeamApp.
Well, I was just going to say that we've had a number of technology companies come on over the last couple of weeks, and one of our regular viewers, Phil, asked a question of earlier in the week: how much does it cost for the platform? So, how much does it cost for clubs to use TeamApp, to access all the functionality of TeamApp?
Yeah, great question, Steve. So TeamApp's free. It's free to download, create, customise, and use. We've got some features that are more for commercialisation opportunities, which allow the club to share in revenue opportunities, and that's some of the ways that we make our revenue. So there's a ability, and I was going to talk about commercialisation at some stage through this stream, but one is important that we're going to get clubs back, but it's also going to be really important for clubs to be sustainable and to survive longer term. I've unfortunately heard of a lot of stories of clubs that have lost sponsors because sponsors have got no patrons coming in. I've heard a lot of clubs who are losing players because they can't pay those players. So there's going to be some hardship, and I think that there's going to need to be a bit of a change in the way that we commercialise ourselves as a club, and we can certainly help with that. So one of the features of TeamApp that's been out there for a long time is we make a lot of our money similar to like Facebook and some of those other platforms through advertising, but we uniquely give our clubs the ability to be able to buy their own ad space, and then we give them the tools to be able to create their own ads, and then the analytics to provide back to their sponsors and advertisers. So unfortunately, probably this year, we're not going to be able to have too many crowds, so it's going to be hard to have the billboard on the fence, but for a fixed fee of $300 a year or $30 a month, the club can buy their ad space and on-sell it to as many sponsors as they want for as much as they can generate. And some of our clubs can generate up to $10,000 or $15,000 a year for their $300 outlay. So it's one of those tools that I'm really proud of that can give back to the community. And I hope for those that have got advertisers or sponsors that they're struggling to keep on board or struggling to provide value to, that they use systems like that.
I do want to explore the fundraising side more in just a tick, Rob, but we got a question come through which is such a cool question. So can you live stream, and if you can't, are you likely to be able to live stream through the app, given we're going to be able to not have crowds at the game? Can we live stream through the app yet? At the moment in TeamApp, the only feature that we've got is a live scores feature, which is a crowdsourcing way to be able to share the scores. But TeamApp is a hub. So we've got multiple buttons that can link through to whatever you want. So if you want to integrate the URL, like what we're doing with the stream here today through Facebook or any other platform, you can do that through our system. The one thing that we like to try and become is the hub for all your communication, whether we're doing it or another third party is. If you've got it in one location, you can promote it through there. TeamApp is essentially becomes your CRM or your digital database. And if all your users, being your players, your key stakeholders, are all on that one location, you can send them a message through TeamApp saying that this live stream is about to start, and whether it's through us or another party, it can be in there. I've looked at live streaming for a long time, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to get the right technology yet. Certainly something we want to integrate directly at some stage. So just thinking that through from the practical application that has been raised, and thank you so much for the questions. I love questions in the live chat. That's one of the keys to the whole live chat. So effectively, the way that we use a streaming platform that links to, as I said, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at the same time. So how would it work in TeamApp? Do you live stream in Facebook and connect it to TeamApp and they're watching in TeamApp, or are we notifying everybody that there is a live stream and click on the link to go to Facebook is in Chili's example? Yeah, the easiest way to avoid the user having to click on multiple things, because not everyone's tech savvy, is to create we've got 3 buttons that you can link through to whatever website you want. You can rename any buttons on our platform as well. So you could call one of them live stream and link through to whatever other third-party live stream system you want, whether it's Facebook or Twitch or any other partners that you just mentioned. On
On Team App, you could then communicate to your existing database so that you don't have to have them join your Facebook group or your Twitch group or whatever it may be, but it's all housed within Team App.
Yeah, and the brilliant thing about doing it that way, and why you would do it that way, is because if you just live stream on Team App, not everyone knows that not everyone's going to get the notification in your community. Whereas if you send the notification out via Team App, everyone that's on Team App for your community will get that notification as and when it's happening, and can then just jump on. So, yeah, great question. Thank you so much for that. Going back to the fundraising, I actually think one of the silver linings coming out of the COVID period is that it's forcing us to rethink fundraising. And it's forcing us to not do what we've always done, because what we've always done, there are better ways now. And so I really like the way of looking at it. And so even if we look at it specifically from a sponsorship perspective, the ability to, so if I can just clarify and just ask a question I don't know the answer to, Rob. So you've got a sponsor, which could be the local hotel. So for instance, the local hotel here is the major sponsor of every sporting team in the region, or the biggest. They were doing drive-through Palmers as a fun, keeping the kitchen staff on. So could you then be sending at 6 o'clock on a Saturday evening through Team App a message about the drive-through Palmers to that database or to your community?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a few ways that you can commercialise and help your sponsors. We've got commercialisation tips on our website, and they're not just the direct advertising like I mentioned, but like you're sort of saying, it's getting creative. I know it was 7 years ago, I tried to get creative with our local pub, who wasn't prepared to sponsor my club at the time because they wanted a different way. So I sold them at the time, and I don't know if it was a term then, but I certainly use it now. And it was a push notification package. So I sold them a package of notifications that we would send to our database at the times that they wanted us to do it, and then it would reach the 200-300 members that we had on the app. And that's thinking outside the square, and that's using the free components of Team App to be able to broadcast information for your sponsors and create some real value for them. And that was at a time when obviously we weren't going through COVID, but it was a realisation from me that, and it was at a time, to be honest, that I was seeing some of the clubs fold, and that really hurts, being a long-time volunteer within sport, seeing clubs fold, and unfortunately most of the time due to financial issues. And at that point in time, I realised that we need to give genuine value back to our sponsors. It's not a donation. It's an investment, and it's an investment in a database, essentially. So however big you can grow your database is the way that you can commercialise it. So for a club that has 1,000 potential players and members and whatever it may be, you've got a really powerful and valuable database to be able to provide to your sponsors and advertisers. And it's giving that feedback. If they pay $100 for a message and get 5 people to go to the pub for a meal and some drinks, then they're going to get a return on that investment. If they're going to buy a billboard and have anyone see that because they can't come to grounds, then that's not a good investment they're going to want to do moving forward. But when times get tough, the easiest thing for these sponsors to do is to drop off and not sponsor. But if clubs can show that, yes, times are tough, and I'm going to help you too. I'm going to help you get through this as much as we want to get through it by giving you access to our database, by ensuring our members come to your certain functions, whether it's your own trivia nights, which I'm not sure if they're going to be able to happen anytime soon, or come to your pub when it reopens, or come to your cafe, whatever it may be, then there's some real value that clubs can give their sponsors.
Jeepers, Rob, you are attracting an audience when John Warren, one of my favourite Facebook people to follow in the whole world, jumps on, and Nick Cox, welcome to you too, CEO of Belgravia. So, Jeepers, you are pulling a crowd, Rob. Well done. But just on the push notification side of it and thinking about it, you value sponsorship in our training, we talk about it 3 ways: the size of your audience, your ability to engage that audience, but most importantly, the ability to influence the behavior of that audience. And You just reminded me of a club in country Victoria that was so proud that they were creating value out of the opposition by using the push notification function. The opposition team would come into town 30 or 40 kilometres, and then as they were leaving, one of their sponsors was a pub that was halfway between the two towns, and as they were leaving, they would send the notifications out and put it on the Facebook, et cetera, and then the opposition would be driving past and go, oh, yeah, good, we might as well stop at the pub. And the pub was generating significant revenues from the crowd that were going to the game 20 Ks away. And, yeah, it's really cool. So apart from the sponsorship side of it, what are the other fundraising mechanisms that you've got? Because effectively what that allows them to do is to use that audience and their audience and their audience to raise funds for our club.
Yeah, absolutely. So without talking directly to fundraising, but putting it in the whole bucket of being more commercial, is we've got a store. So any club can create their own e-commerce platform within TMAP and sell whatever items they want to their members and capture whatever data they want from those items. So I'll bring you back again to my days of running footy clubs and having beanies and scarves and all different off-field apparel and having it sitting in a cupboard and no one ever seeing the light of day, and none of those sales ever happening, because the reality is the communication may not have gone to the canteen staff at the time and they didn't even know it was there. So bringing that to the new age and having and giving clubs the ability firstly to be able to show people that they've got items that they can buy. They're able to purchase those items digitally without having to go and see anybody. But also now you can also promote those items. So instead of just waiting there for people to come to it, you can actually proactively say things like, we've got a whole new range of polos coming in with the club's apparel. We've got a limited amount of numbers, make sure you buy now. So clubs that are going to be struggling can really start looking at their finances and ensure that they aren't spending money on things that aren't turning over and actually giving them a return before they even purchase the item. So that's certainly something that I did in my days a few years ago, but something that clubs should really be starting to look at now.
And in this time, again, one of the key things that we need to understand, we're a bit hesitant, or clubs are a bit hesitant to be asking people for money at the moment, but there are large amounts of the community that are actually able and want to be helping our club. And so even just picking up on that apparel concept, there's many clubs that have got boxes and boxes and boxes of old apparel that are out there. We can use this period to put that old apparel up and sell it, and we just call it the Heritage Edition. And people take it for what it is, which is old apparel, but it's still, and we see, or you call it the Heritage, or we call it the retro sort of side of it. So we can be taking advantage of that negative.
Sorry, Steve, to cut you off, just to further go on that, our store also now has inventory management. So we launched that about a month or two ago. So those clubs, and the reason they've probably got all that apparel is because they didn't even know they had it. So now you can order what you order, put your quantities in, and then our system will digitally count them down as they're purchased, and you can turn them off should it run out of stock, or leave it there, and then it gives you the knowledge of what you need to order next time. Yeah.
And Nick's asked, when will payment feature be fully ready, and how will this work with casual transactions? Great question.
Yeah, good question. So we've actually got a peer-to-peer payment system. So one of the features of the store was the club can set up their own environment and sell their own products. But what it restricted was the coach who needed to take the payment for potentially playing basketball each week, or the coach is present at the end of the season. Those sort of micro payments weren't accessible through the store. You'd have to create a new store so that money wasn't going to the club, then having to go back to the coach. So 6 months ago, I think it was, we launched a feature which allows any team manager or coach to be able to request a payment from any of the members in their group, and that pings or sends a notification to that user. They make a digital payment pretty easily through credit card or debit card, and that instantly goes into that coach or team manager's bank account.
Wow. Cool. You may not know this, Rob, but one of the strongest advocates in the country for TMAP Wendy from the city of Mandurah, and Wendy was very excited when she found out you were coming on. Shared this with all her clubs. Do you have training webinars for clubs wanting to use TMAP, or should they use Sports Community, Wendy? Good question. Or for clubs who use it but want to understand it better? So, yeah.
We do. We've got some webinars. There is some dates. I might get someone to share those dates and when the next ones are coming up. But absolutely, we are trying to run as many as we can, because there is some really powerful tools that we've got that if you set up your TMAP properly, it's going to save so much burden on the administrators throughout the entire season.
Yeah, and we'll Wendy will ask Rob to send us the dates of those webinars, which no doubt Rob will be free. Yeah, and we'll put them in our newsletter so you don't miss them, Wendy, if you're not on getting that comms. Yeah,
that's what we see free.
Cool. So, TMAP is just a great tool coming out of COVID, and if you haven't used TMAP, go onto their website, click onto their YouTube channels. As you said, Rob, you've been around for 7 years, and just give me a rough estimate. How many clubs and users roughly? Well, we'll just stick with Australia. You reckon?
I think the latest count was about 330,000 clubs, and we've just got over about 6 million members now.
Yeah, and that's worldwide, yeah?
That's worldwide, correct, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So, Rob, given that I know it's an extraordinarily busy time, so I really appreciate you coming on and giving us, I always tell people it's 10 minutes of their time, and it ends up being we've been on for 26 minutes. And look, the reality is we could talk for hours.
Just to finish off from my end, just a bit of an exclusive for you. We've got a release going live in the next couple of days, which is going to be all for the users. So like I said at the start, we sat down as a team and really wanted to put together some functionality that could help users through that COVID period, because I do genuinely think that clubs need to stay engaged with their key stakeholders, their players, their sponsors, whoever it may be. And it's not just to keep them involved with the club, but sport drives communities. And there's so many people that I've spoken to, from coaches to people within leagues to governing bodies out there that are concerned that if sport doesn't come back, there's no purpose for a lot of people. They may not have families, they may not have that, but they have their sporting club, and that's their life. And what this has proven is that's taken away a big part of what they do. So some of the new things that we've got going live in the next couple of days are allowing the user to be able to upload as many images as possible at a time, or videos. So it's been a long-term feature, maybe from Wendy over in Mandurah, from our users. We've also got image cropping as well. We've updated the infrastructure for chat, so everyone may not see too much difference, but there will be certainly a huge improvement to the performance. But that's now then going to allow us to really build on that functionality. And then the last bit is we're now working on, now that we've got some clear dates on going back, we're now starting to work on some real functionality for league, state and national sporting bodies. So we've already got a hierarchical communication system, which allows the league to communicate to all the parents from all the apps on TMAP. But we've got we launched a tournament system at the start of this year. We're building that out to be a full-blown comp management system. And then more importantly, for all the people within our ecosystem, we're really working hard on updating the club websites. So when you create an app on TMAP, your app's accessible through Google, also through iOS or Apple, but you also get a website version, and that's for those members that would prefer to look at the content on a desktop. But it also allows you to have your own website within TMAP. And moving out of this, I know clubs aren't going to have as much money, so our website is free. So for those that are potentially paying in the thousands of dollars, there's a real opportunity that they can potentially ditch that, use our system for free, save a bit of cash, and put that back into getting their clubs running again.
Wow. And I think that goes to your point, Rob, that you're 100% right, that I think tech in Australia really does punch above its weight. And I think the reason for that, particularly when we're talking about solutions for community sport, is people like yourself have such as you've shown in this session, such a deep affinity and understanding of community sport. It's not about the tech, it's about the community, it's about the social cohesion, it's about the connectiveness that it brings to our lives. And I think across the board, tech in Australia kind of gets that, or it doesn't survive. And I think that was just a great way to finish. So thank you so much for sharing Team App with us, Rob, and send us through any info that you want us to get out to our audience, and we'll get that out. So Wendy, keep reading the newsletters, and Rob, thank you so much for being part of our sports community.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, and thank you as well. I think sports community does a great thing for sport in Australia, and really looking forward to seeing where your platform goes over the coming weeks, months, and years.
Yeah, I'm curious to see why that goes too. And to those that ask questions, thank you so much, because it just makes it so much more interactive. It makes it so much more fun, and it makes it so much more relevant. So come tomorrow to eSport, because we're all on the same level of having no idea what our kids are doing. So until tomorrow, I'm Steve Pallas. Thank you very much for being part of Sports Community.